Getting kicked out of a luxury home and ending up in a moldy apartment is a brutal reality check, especially when it's entirely your 10-year-old's fault. Let's jump straight into this crazy situation from user UnluckyNorth7184, titled AITA for telling my son he's the reason we had to leave his aunt's house. I have two kids, a 6-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old son. Shit happened and the kids and I needed a place to stay until I could get on my feet. A friend that I haven't seen in years heard about my situation and offered for us to stay with her family. This friend is an absolute angel. They have a big house with a huge playroom, a massive backyard, a play structure, and a pool. She had me complete a background check before moving in, and once that cleared, we were in. My daughter moved into her oldest daughter's room, and they became immediate best friends. My son got a small room that had been beautifully decorated for him, and I stayed in their guest room. Now, my son can be extremely defiant. I've tried therapy with me, individual therapy, behavioral technicians, everything. He's a great kid at school, but once he gets home, everything is a power struggle. My friend talked to me before we moved in and made it clear. She wants to help, but if the situation starts to become harmful to her kids, she will have to kick us out. He did great for a couple of weeks. Then he started to test boundaries. He was punished, then he started teasing his sister and my friend's oldest daughter. We were given our only warning. I talked to my son, tried punishment again, and he went right back to messing with the girls. True to her word, I was told they were willing to keep my daughter until we get settled, but my son and I needed to be out that night. They got us a hotel for the week, and then we were on our own. We bounced between motels for a few weeks, and now we're in a 2-bedroom apartment that almost definitely has mold problems. I've decided to keep my daughter with them until we are somewhere with a little more space and in slightly better condition. I visit without my son a couple of times a week, and we spend weekends together. The other day, my son was mad at me and said that I favor his sister because I'm letting her stay at the good house while he has to live here. I was just done with his defiance and told him that the reason she gets to stay there and he doesn't is because his behavior got us kicked out. He chose to ignore us when we talked to him, so now he has to deal with the consequences. He has been so upset since then that I'm now wondering if I shouldn't have told him why we had to leave. Eita? Wow, that is a brutal reality check, but honestly, it's the truth. A 10-year-old is absolutely old enough to understand that his actions have real-world consequences. She tried therapy, she gave him warnings, and he still pushed it until they lost their safe haven. Protecting him from the truth wouldn't help him learn anything. Was she too harsh for telling a 10-year-old that it's his fault they live in a moldy apartment now? Or was it a necessary wake-up call? Drop your verdict down in the comments. You know it's a bad day when your business partner gets drunk and casually mentions he's giving away half of your company to his brother. Let's dive straight into this wild business drama from user OK__1708, titled AITA. Don't want to give 50% of our company to his brother? I, a 32-year-old female, have a short-term rental company that I built up with my boyfriend Jack over the last 6 years. At the moment, officially, it's 100% mine. We are now at the point where we want to change the company structure to a limited company for tax reasons. Our plan was that the company would be shared 50-50 between me and him. Yesterday, my boyfriend admitted in a drunken state that he doesn't want the 50-50 split to be between us. He wants it to be between him and his brother, Liam. His brother has been working for us for the last few years, but he's now starting his own short-term rental business. I think my boyfriend is afraid that if his brother is successful, he will no longer work for us. That would mean my boyfriend has to take over the responsibilities his brother currently handles. I absolutely understand that he doesn't want his brother to leave, since we want to slowly remove ourselves from the daily operations to have more time for our private lives. We suffocated for this business for the last 6 years and want a healthier work-life balance. But I don't understand why it makes any sense to just gift his brother 50% of this company. For me, not even a 3-way split would be reasonable. To be honest, I'm also a little bit hurt. He is valuing his brother's work more than the work I do. I'm not involved in the daily operations, but I'm the one bringing in all the real estate deals, handling interior design, and improving the company, like bringing in employees and establishing systems to keep our cleaning and maintenance at a high quality. I would say I contributed fairly to this company too. I suggested we could give the brother 10% of the company if he brings at least 2 new properties to the business. Jack told me I don't understand that he would never take anything away from me. He said that right now, I own 100% of the company, and he is trusting me with that. I told him it was always his decision, and if he didn't feel comfortable, we could have changed it years ago, but he was fine with it because it was easier. I don't feel the same way, and I would never give away so much power over my life to one person. He said that my reaction is because of my own trauma from my family history, and that he would never steal anything from me. But in my head, I just can't give away 50% of my hard work. Am I really behaving like a bitch because I have trust issues, or is this absolutely bananas? It is absolutely bananas! She owns 100% of a successful business she helped build, and her boyfriend wants to cut her out of the ownership entirely just so he doesn't have to pick up some extra shifts? That is not family trauma, that is basic business sense. She's the one securing the real estate and doing the foundational work. Handing over half the company to an employee is wild. Some people really think a hospital room after major abdominal surgery is a VIP lounge. And this guy threw a full-blown tantrum when he didn't get first dibs on seeing a newborn. Let's get right into this wild display of family entitlement from user SingleCoat6881, titled AITAH for letting my in-laws meet my baby before my brother did. I, a 26-year-old female, and my husband just welcomed our second child. I had a rough pregnancy, a planned C-section, and a really hard recovery. I was severely dehydrated, couldn't keep food down for 8 hours, and was stuck in bed with a catheter. At the hospital, I only had my mom and my husband there for help. My mother-in-law brought my toddler a few times, and my mom's boyfriend popped into the room for about 10 minutes to take them out to eat. After coming home, my father-in-law came up, and my sister-in-law stopped by for a few hours. Here's the problem. My brother, 21, and his fiancée, 21, are extremely upset that I didn't invite them to the hospital and that the people listed above met our baby before he did. I didn't invite them because I didn't want a bunch of people there, and the hospital's visiting policy didn't allow that many people anyway. I did, however, invite him over to the house pretty soon after getting home. He told me he had no desire to meet my daughter because he thought he would be one of the first in the family to meet her. I explained the hospital rules and that I wasn't comfortable with a crowd, but he claimed I should have allowed them to come because his fiancée has medical experience as a clinic MA and could help me. I've only known her for about a year, and we are not close enough for her to help with my postpartum care. The only people I wanted help from were my husband, mom, and MIL. He has since removed me and my toddler from his wedding, claiming we disrespected his family and is refusing to contact me. But I feel like he disrespected mine by expecting me to cater to his feelings directly after the birth of my child. AITAH? The entitlement here is completely off the charts. A hospital room after major abdominal surgery is not a VIP lounge where people get first dibs on a newborn. And expecting a woman to let her brother's fiancé, who she's only known for a year, handle her intimate postpartum care just because she worked at a clinic is absolutely unhinged. You're expected to help drain your own savings to pay for your mother's medical bills, only to find out she's casually handing over $300 a month to a church she barely even attends. Let's get right into this massive family financial dispute from user Ted Danson with myself, titled AITA for telling my family my mother should stop giving to her church. I come from a fairly religious family, and I, in short, am less so. Currently, my mother, who is divorced and disabled, is in need of a medical amputation. Her sole income is from government subsidies and alimony from my father. She will likely need to have most of her leg removed due to a bout of sepsis years ago, but her weight is such an issue that the procedure cannot happen until she loses about 50 pounds. The leg needing the operation has no knee from a prior surgery, so the goal is an above-the-knee amputation. This way, when she gets a prosthetic, she can also gain back a knee and its functionality. Right now, the short-term goal is for her to get on GLP-1 medications to help her lose the weight. I am happy to help pay for these meds as they are not fully covered by her insurance. I will also likely be helping pay for her rehab after the surgery. Here's the predicament. I just learned that my mom is still giving $300 a month to her church. I told my family this either needs to stop or be reduced substantially, but they are saying that cannot happen. She barely attends the church anymore because of her condition, and given that we need to prioritize her care and surgery prep, I think any money she has should be spent on herself. This all boiled down to a conversation with my brother, who works at a different church. He and I have joint power of attorney over her spending, and he says we cannot tell her to spend less on church tithing. I really don't want to get litigious on this matter, but it might come to that. Out of the two of us, I am the one who has the financial means to support her through all of her medical and rehab needs. So, am I the asshole for insisting that her tithing needs to temporarily stop or be substantially reined in until she is fully past her medical care? It is incredibly unfair to ask your child to step in and pay out of pocket for expensive medications and medical rehab while you are giving $3,600 a year to a church. If the brother feels so strongly that her tithing shouldn't be touched, then he should be the one opening his wallet to cover the medical bills, not pushing the financial burden onto the sibling who is just trying to be practical. When someone helps you move, cleans your apartment, and drives you to the airport, you'd naturally assume you're friends. But what happens when they completely ignore you the second your life is actually going well? Let's dive straight into this confusing dynamic from user AnyFail6263, titled, AITA for saying a guy who helped me through a crisis isn't my friend, he's just a Christian. I am a 26-year-old Christian. A while back, I went through a really dark period. I lost a parent, I was struggling financially, and I ended up losing a lot of my friends. During this time, a guy from my church, who was my group leader at the time, stepped up in a big way. He was incredibly kind. He drove me around, helped clean my apartment, took me to the airport, and later even helped me move. He checked in on me whenever he could, and I naturally thought we were becoming close friends. Fast forward to now. My life is finally stable again. I've tried to hang out with him like normal friends do. I'll text him and ask if he wants to get coffee, play tennis, shoot some pool, or play PlayStation. Every single time, I am completely ignored. He will still show up if there is an absolute emergency or if it's church-related. But for the little things, chatting, catching up, or just hanging out for fun, he is completely unavailable. Recently, someone asked me if he and I were friends. I answered honestly and said, no, he's a Christian. I didn't say this out of anger, I just realized he was helping me out of a sense of religious duty, not because he actually wants to be my friend. I decided to just categorize the relationship accurately. Well, he found out what I said, and he got really emotional and hurt that I don't consider him a friend. I feel bad, but it's really hard for me to consider someone a friend when they ignore me 90% of the time. To me, friendship isn't just about showing up for massive emergencies. It's also about the casual, day-to-day stuff. AITA? It is completely fair to call this relationship exactly what it is. Friendship requires a mutual, two-way connection, not just a savior complex. If someone only wants to interact with you when you are in a crisis or when it's an official church event, you are a ministry project to them, not a buddy. He can't ignore texts to grab coffee and then act shocked when he isn't viewed as a close friend. Calling your wife lazy while she is 26 weeks pregnant, in excruciating pain, and heading to the hospital to check on your unborn baby is peak audacity. Let's dive straight into this infuriating situation from user glittering_wheel_975, titled AITA for being upset that my husband called me lazy during a pregnancy hospital visit. I'm 26 weeks pregnant and have been struggling with pelvic girdle pain, so walking and standing for long periods can be quite uncomfortable. Today I had a midwife appointment at my GP surgery. I had already walked about 15 minutes from home to get there. During the appointment, the midwife wanted me to go to the maternity assessment unit at the hospital to monitor my baby's movements. After the appointment, it was around 1 p.m., and my husband was on his way back home from work. I called and asked if he could pick me up and drop me at the maternity building at the hospital, which is a 20-minute drive. He came, but instead he drove me to the main hospital entrance and told me to walk to the maternity building from there. I asked why he couldn't just drive me to the maternity building entrance since it was only 2 buildings further. It just didn't make sense to me. He got angry, called me lazy, and started shouting at me. Eventually, he did drive me to the maternity entrance. I spent about 2 hours at the hospital and then got an Uber home. My husband was at home with our 3-year-old and didn't even offer to pick me up. When I got home, upset, he called me lazy again. I snapped back and we argued. From my perspective, I wasn't asking for anything unreasonable. I was pregnant, in pain, and attending a hospital assessment because of concerns about the baby. But he seems to think I was being demanding and unwilling to walk. AITA? This is absolutely enraging. She has a medical condition that makes walking painful, and she was literally sent to the hospital because they were worried about the baby's movements. A supportive partner would drop her directly at the door and make sure she was okay, not scream at her in the car and call her lazy for not wanting to hike across a hospital campus. Destroying your best friend's marriage over a completely false cheating accusation and then demanding a front row seat at her funeral is a whole new level of delusion. Let's get right into this wild reality check from user intrepid_deal_3534, titled AITA for telling my daughter she doesn't have the right to mourn or go to her ex-friend's funeral after what she did. When my daughter was in school, she became friends with a girl named Kelly. They stayed close through college, and my daughter was even one of Kelly's bridesmaids. To explain my daughter's behavior, my ex-husband cheated on me repeatedly, and our marriage ended horribly. My daughter doesn't speak to her father anymore and absolutely despises cheating. About 7 years ago, my daughter became convinced that Kelly was cheating on her husband. She started harassing Kelly online and essentially blew up her life. By the time my daughter found out that the man she had seen Kelly with at a fancy restaurant was actually just a relative, it was too late. Kelly's marriage had already fallen apart, and because we live in a very religious community, she was ostracized. They had a huge falling out, which basically came down to my daughter ruining Kelly's life. Kelly blocked her on everything, eventually moved away, and hated my daughter after that. The issue is that Kelly recently passed away. My daughter found out through a Facebook post, and the funeral is this weekend, 2 states away. My daughter was planning to attend, and I told her that I thought it was a terrible idea. She said she needed to go. We got into an argument, and she said she had every right to mourn her friend. I told her that she really didn't have the right to mourn Kelly or go to the funeral because Kelly hated her, and because my daughter had destroyed her life. She hasn't spoken to me since. Now I'm wondering if I should warn Kelly's family that my daughter might show up, or if I might be in the wrong here. The mother is completely right. Showing up to the funeral of someone whose life you actively destroyed isn't about honoring their memory. It's about making yourself the center of attention to ease your own guilt. If she actually respected Kelly, she would stay far away and let her real family mourn in peace. Inviting your entire extended family to vacation at a house you don't even own, before the actual buyers even have the keys, is next level entitlement. Let's get right into this wild boundary dispute from user Forward Republic 1825, titled AITA for telling my fiance's parents they can't use our future home as a family vacation spot before we even moved in. My fiance and I have been saving for years to buy our first home. We finally found a small fixer-upper and the closing date is about 2 months away. We're both really excited to put our own stamp on it. The issue is, my fiance's parents have always been a bit overbearing. A few days ago, they casually mentioned that they have already started planning their summer vacation and that our new house is going to be their home base for the entire month of August. They even said they had invited their siblings and cousins to join them. I was floored. We haven't even gotten the keys yet, and they're already planning to move their entire extended family into our house. I tried to explain that this isn't feasible. We'll still be unpacking, dealing with renovations, and honestly, we just want to enjoy our new home as a couple before hosting a massive family reunion. My fiance's mom got really upset, saying I was being selfish and ungrateful, and claimed they were just trying to help us settle in. My fiance is trying to stay out of it, which is making things even more stressful. I stood my ground and told them our home isn't a public hotel. I said they are welcome to visit, but a month-long takeover with extended family isn't going to happen. Now, my fiance's parents are giving us the silent treatment, and my fiance is worried about the fallout. AITA? The biggest red flag here isn't even the entitled in-laws. It's the fiance who is staying out of it while his family tries to hijack your brand new home. How exactly is bringing a mob of siblings and cousins for a month-long vacation supposed to help you settle in? Setting boundaries now is absolutely crucial, because if you cave on this, they will treat your house like a free Airbnb forever. Just because you don't own a car doesn't mean your neighbor gets to claim your private parking space for free, especially without asking. Let's get right into this entitled neighbor drama from user AITA_parking spaces, titled AITA for telling my neighbor to stop parking in my parking space. I live in a block of flats in the UK that has one allocated parking space per plot number. I don't actually have a car, so my space is empty most of the time. My neighbor and her husband both have a car, but only one space between them. Her husband uses their allocated spot, and she just parks wherever she can. She had been parking in a different neighbor's space until about 2 weeks ago when they bought a car and understandably asked her to stop. Instead, she has now taken it upon herself to just take mine since it's mostly empty. This was frustrating, but I let it slide until my mother-in-law came to drop my son home. She found my space taken by the neighbor's car and had to park in another neighbor's space because there was nowhere else available. I was worried it would cause issues, but luckily she only stayed briefly. This was when I had enough. I wrote a note, explained the situation, and asked her to stop parking there as I may need it for guests. I put my door and plot number on it and left it under her windscreen wiper. I thought that would be the end of it, but yesterday I woke up to that same bit of paper on my doorstep with her writing on the back. Her response was that she and her husband find it difficult to park two cars overnight, they're usually gone during the day anyway, and that my MIL should have parked in the visitor bays instead. She's completely missed the point. Whether my MIL should have used the visitor bays is irrelevant. It's my space, and if I want my guests to park there, they should be able to. Also, if I went out and bought a car tomorrow, what would she do then? It's not my responsibility that they have two cars. She shouldn't just assume that because mine is empty, it's okay for her to park in without even asking. Now she's making me feel petty because I don't even have a car. But I think she is being petty by arguing with me via a piece of paper on my doorstep. Also, since I'm in the UK, towing her car is not a legal option here. Atta? The absolute audacity to leave a rebuttal note on someone's doorstep over a space you are actively stealing is mind-blowing. It doesn't matter if you own a car, a bicycle, or absolutely nothing. That parking spot belongs to your flat. The neighbor needs to figure out her own parking situation, not guilt trip the person whose property she is squatting on. You shouldn't have to shove your relationship back into the closet just because your best friend hasn't taught her kids that gay people exist. Let's dive straight into this frustrating situation from user Mundane Coworker, titled AITA for refusing to be introduced as friend rather than girlfriend to my best friend's kids. I have a really close 25-year friendship with a woman, let's call her Trudy, who was so loving and supportive when I came out to her as bisexual. 6 months ago, I met the love of my life, Anna, and we have a wonderful relationship. Anna has met almost all my friends except Trudy, who lives far away. Yesterday, I arranged to meet up with Trudy to finally introduce her to my girlfriend. However, because Trudy couldn't find a babysitter, she said she'd bring her 3 kids with her, who are all under 12. A couple of hours before we were due to meet, Trudy texted to ask if it was okay to introduce Anna to her kids as my friend rather than my girlfriend. She said they wouldn't understand that she's my girlfriend, and she wasn't ready to have that talk with them yet. I was totally taken aback and said no. I told her I'm not comfortable being in an environment where my relationship isn't acknowledged, and I don't want to hide who my girlfriend is. I said that if she isn't ready to talk to her kids about same-sex relationships, it might be better if we just reschedule for another time. Trudy was very hurt. She said she has been incredibly supportive of the relationship and wasn't asking me to hide anything, but I feel like I've extended a lot of kindness while just holding my own boundaries. I'm not asking her to discuss anything she's uncomfortable with, but I'm not putting myself or my girlfriend in that situation either. Now, Trudy genuinely doesn't understand my position and isn't replying to my texts. AITA for not meeting up with her unless she introduced my girlfriend as my girlfriend. It makes zero sense for the friend to claim she, quote, isn't asking them to hide anything when that is the literal definition of her request. Offering to reschedule for a time without the kids was the perfect, mature compromise. A true ally of 25 years shouldn't expect you to diminish your relationship just to avoid a basic 5-minute parenting conversation about how love works. Is the friend acting like a fake ally, or was the poster too harsh by refusing to just play along for the kids' sake? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments.